Apparently I don't learn from my mistakes. Why would I?
I don't understand. It's going to work!
Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Noémie and today I'm taking you to make a new jumpsuit for my wife. I have already made this jumpsuit once for her. I have already shown you a couple of times if you normally watch my videos, but so I am making her a new version of this jumpsuit. Let me put the lining in the right place. I'm making her a new version. This is how far I got so far. So the first jumpsuit I made it I believe a year ago or 2 years ago. I think 1 year ago I made it. I will correct on screen if I'm currently lying. And I am now making a second one. What I have made as differences is that this one I am lining all the way until a short length, like shorts, because the main fabric here is really see-through, and so I want her to be able to wear knickers of her choice and not to be showing the world what she's wearing. So this is why I chose a pale skin-colored fabric, so that it kind of camouflages everything underneath and hopefully it doesn't make it too warm. This is the jumpsuit pattern from Peppermint magazine, and in both her first version and her second version that I'm making now, I have modified the legs because she wanted a wide-legged version. I mean, there's no point me showing you this anymore because you can't really see, but so how I made it for the first one is that I used the pattern pieces all the way to kind of like the start of the leg, and then afterwards I placed pens that she really liked and wanted the leg width to be copied, and I placed those pens onto my fabric and I cut around that. So this is how I copied the pens, and I kind of mashed the top of the jumpsuit faded into the pens she liked. And for this jumpsuit I have used the previous jumpsuit I made. Same, I cut around the normal pattern pieces until the start of the leg, and then I put the other jumpsuit on top, and I kind of just drew roughly where the lines would be, you know, adding seam allowance. And I also lengthened the piece by, I believe, 15 centimeters. It's going to be way too long, but I kind of want her to be able to choose how long or not she wants it when it's on her, because the other one's a little bit more cropped. Also, the hem is folded like twice half a centimeter because I had so little fabric to do the hem. So I thought, well, I'm going to give myself plenty of room. This way she can have it a bit longer if she feels like it, and also I don't have to do twice half a centimeter and I can do a proper comfortable hem. Is that all? Modification I did in the first jumpsuit, I added pockets. Obviously you want pockets. So I added pockets in the previous one. I tend to interface my pockets if the cotton's a bit thinner, so that, you know, it doesn't break too quickly. But in the previous one I interfaced it with my thick interfacing, and the pockets were so stiff that they were kind of like sticking out of her hips. You know, they were almost like sitting on top of her, so she didn't love that. The interfacing did crumple and ease a bit with wear, and now it doesn't like look weird, but when you put your hands in the pocket you can still feel it's quite stiff. So I did use the better interfacing, the lighter, softer interfacing for those pockets here, so I hope she's happy. So I have added pockets, and for this one a difference I have made is that instead of just cutting, sorry, this is at the point where I have so much fabric going on. Instead of cutting the front facing and the back facing, I recutted the whole pieces fully a second time, which means I also made the darts in the lining as well. Can you see it? It's there. So it's really copy of what's happening on the outside in the inside at the moment. And obviously it's going to be short length inside, but otherwise I have used the pattern pieces for the facing, and I have used it to add fusible to the top here. I have already filmed the tiny clip. I'm going to add it just after this, but then otherwise, I mean, if everything goes well, maybe we don't see each other until it's finished, but I assume that there's going to be interesting notes on the construction with a full lining than only the facing at the top. So if I have anything interesting to report with the construction of the lining, I will let you know. This way, if you want to line your jumpsuit as well, maybe you can use this video for help. So let's go, and I'm gonna show you my first mistake on this jumpsuit, and you're going to see that apparently I don't learn from my mistakes. Why would I? So I'm sewing my wife's jumpsuit and I just realized that I did not align, I'm so annoyed, I did not align the middle with the center point here. How? How did I do that? I don't understand, but maybe I should have sewn it because I did it right on the lining. How did I do this? I did like pin it properly and thought I made sure that that line was on top on that line, but it's like, it's clearly not the case. So I was really annoyed and I was like, oh, has it ruined the whole thing? And then I looked at the one I made for her last year and I also did exactly that. So actually, it's just my trademark, apparently. It's my trademark to make it wonky. So I guess she's fine if she's worn this literally a ton and I made exactly the same mistake on this one. Look at me doing more and more projects and like the same project, like remaking her a jumpsuit and making the same mistake. It's like, what's the point of making mistake if you don't learn from them? You ask. Well, okay, so I really don't understand how I managed to do that, because in my heart I did put this on top of this, but I guess I must have aligned the seam allowances, but like, why? Noémie, how did you do this? Okay, I think, you know, the 3 foot rule, like if you, or 3 meter rule, or maybe 10 meters for some sewing project, like if you can't see it from, like even from here, you know, if you meet her, you're not gonna be like, wow, this is misaligned. Like, no, you're not gonna look at her breast so closely. I mean, you know, she's my wife, so you shouldn't. And it's fine, but oh, it's so frustrating, you know, it's like I was really procrastinating doing this neckline because I was really stressed for it for some reason. And now I'm like, I was right to stress for it because clearly it went not great. But it's done and now I can keep going and try to move a little bit along with this. I have so many projects on the fire now, especially because I just got the wedding... Ooh, maybe I shouldn't say. I don't know if you've seen the video. Well, I got some wedding dress fabric just arrived and have stuff to do with that. So, yeah. To try to do better this time is the size of the lining. And I'm gonna explain. So this is the original one I made, really following the original pattern and pattern instructions. And this part of the facing was way too big. And because this was bigger than the fabric at the front, this was rolling out constantly and that was driving me mad. You could see at the front when she was wearing it, you could see kind of like this. I mean, not so badly, but you could see a bit of the lining poking out. That was really bothering me. I ended up solving it simply by sewing a little dot here. And this dot makes this smaller, which means that this is now lying flat properly and that this lies where it should be. So this is how I fixed it. But I want to make sure that this doesn't happen with this one. Because you sew with the burrito method, you can't really see if it's the right size or not. So what I'm going to do now that the neckline is placed is align this properly and check that my lining isn't too long. If it's too long, I'm going to chop it now so that it's the right side and that I don't have the same issue with the lining showing at the front. It's also been understitched, so that's fine. But if your lining is really too long, even on the stitch, I mean, here it's on the stitch as well, but it still showed at the front. If someone understands some things about why this is misaligned, except Noémie, you did not align your seams properly, like that I can imagine, but I really thought I had. Is there some magic I am misunderstanding or not? Like, just if there's a trick to it, let me know. But I mean, if it's just to tell me I did it wrong, I have noticed. Thank you. Normally, if you're sewing along with me and you have just sewn your neckline in, and then the next step in the pattern's instructions would be to sew this down, to sew the lining on the zipper. I'm not going to do that because I want to keep a little bit of wiggle room, and obviously my lining is much longer than the facing that's originally in the jumpsuit, so I will keep that for later and I will go straight to the sleeves for burrito. But just so you know, that's already a change I'm making to the instructions, because I feel like sewing the lining now to the zipper when I still need space to move is not going to work. I am first going to do the sleeves holes. I already thought this last time, but honestly, the way they explain the burrito method in the instructions for this jumpsuit is really, really good. So 1 point for them, because for a free pattern, having like such clear instruction for the burrito, I remember for me, this was my very first time doing it, the first time I did this jumpsuit. So perfect, very impressed. Isn't there always that moment when you are removing? So I just sewn this in the burrito and now I'm going to pull, and there's always a moment when it's like, how is that going to work? Is this magic? Is this whole jumpsuit really going to come through this, especially because now it's lined? There's really always a moment of like, now there's only the magic, and the rest we don't know how it's going to work. But how is this possible? How can it come through? Ali, it's 28 degrees inside. Oh, it's coming, it's coming. Okay. Ah, no. I don't understand. I pull in every direction until, yes, I pull in every direction until something happens. Oh, this is really good. And it looks like I really, it also looks like the lining is absolutely not showing on the right side. So it's, oh my God, this is so, I'm happy. Okay. So confirming I have absolutely no understanding on what magic happened there. Now I'm going to do the other side and pray for me that I managed to pull it out again. Oh, but I'm really glad. Okay, one sleeve done, woo, not sleeve, one strap done, woo. Okay, we're making good progress. I just wanted to show you how the side seam is sewn in one very, very long seam that goes around the pocket and then all the way down to the lining. So again, this is only one seam that goes lining, meeting under the armpit here, pockets all the way down. So that's the side done. I'm going to finish this raw edge here properly, and then afterwards I just have the crotch and the inside seam, and then we are almost finished. I'll still need to hem, but that I'm gonna do when my wife is here. I'm gonna hem the short part, but the long part I'm gonna hem when she's back. One thing I'm unsure about, and I will update you if I discover anything interesting, is if I should finish the crotch of the lining first or of the outside fabric first. And yeah, I'll need to have a little bit of a think, because that's going to be strategizing, because obviously I don't want to then not being able to reach. I think in both cases I might be able to pull things apart enough to still reach the crotch, but it's something I don't want to end up having with like the seam attached and literally like I can't reach what I need to reach. So that's one thing I want to avoid. So watch out if you're doing a lining. I was really looking at it like that and I was like, well, I could do the inside seam here and the crotch, and then the inside seam and the crotch. But if you do that, you're not going to be able to turn them back the right way around, because the legs are going to be shot not around those legs, if that makes sense. So far I have done the inside seams here, but not the crotch. So yeah, I'm going to break for lunch, but I really need to have a think of how to finish this smartly so that I don't end up with the legs not matching or anything. We're in trouble, guys. We're absolutely in trouble. I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to manage to sew the crotch of this jumpsuit. An easy option would be to hold the lining and the pants together and kind of sew them as ones, and so then to have the seam allowance inside. But I really wanted the seam allowance to be enclosed in, and you know, that it would look very nice and nicely finished inside. But at this point I'm like, how will I sew those bits? I think there's still like, this is short enough that I could, oh my god. I feel like where there's a will, there's a way. I think I'm going to try. So if you see, so my leg is like this, that's the, you know, it's inside out. So the lining is what you see, because the lining is what's going to be on the inside. So what I want to do is hold this and then twist it I will first pin it and see that it works before committing. But then hopefully I do the seam, I turn it around and bim bam boom, the leg is sewn. So I'm going to be able to sew both legs. I'm going to do the hem at that point as well because I can still pull the leg out here easily. I'm going to do a bit more thinking, I'll confirm, but I think I'm in deep trouble. Okay, went to the store for a thread refill and I'm gonna have a little snack and still trying to figure out this crotch. When we watch the sewing bee, my wife is always shocked at how people pronounce crotch. Apparently it's something that people mispronounce, even like English speakers. But to my ears, because I'm not an English speaker, so sometimes sensitivity is not quite there. And so she's like, oh, they say crotch instead of crotch. And I'm like, it sounds the same. So I am not sure if I pronounce it well, but apparently it's something that many English speakers mispronounce. So maybe you think I pronounce it well, or maybe you like, oh my God, how does she dare pronouncing crotch? So, well, if I do, I'm sorry, I have no clue how to say it well. I don't even know what the mistake is that people make. So, oh well. Let's do those two crotches. No clue. Okay, what I have decided to do, so I have finished the crotch on the main fabric. So this is all sewn up and the main fabric has both its legs done. There's just the hem to be done at the end once my wife comes back and can try the jumpsuit on. Now I am still doing this bit, and what I have decided is to, hopefully it works, to sew the legs, hem them properly, and then I can still slide those legs into those legs. And then I need to see what I do with the crotch, but we'll be almost there. And I also need to see how I put the lining around the zipper. So going to do the legs first, and then I'm coming to see how I do the end. It's really cool. I can put my phone against my sewing machine and that's the perfect height. So really this sewing machine is the perfect tripod for sewing videos. Okay, I'm just going to cut this. Okay, so I have sewn the two legs, 1 and 2 of the lining, and now I'm going to thread the main fabric leg into the lining legs and then figure out how you sew this crotch. God, there's just so much fabric, it's really hard to find what's what. Which leg are you? Who do you belong to? Because the back lining is not attached yet. I could reach through and sew this crotch, which would mean that I would be able to sew it from the right side. But then I also want to sew the lining by turning this right side against right side and then sewing this along the zipper. No, wait. My brain is screwed. Okay, we're there. Right side against one right side on the other side of the zipper. So I think what I want to look at is how far I can sew the crotch the right way around while still having the room to turn this so that I have it the right way around. And then maybe I have to do 10 centimeters of sew a bit like in a crafty style or by hand. I feel like it's gonna work. It's going to work. Okay, as usual, checking that it looks fine on the other side before committing to anything. It looks so nice. Oh, this is sewing the lining to the zipper is one of my favorite things. Maybe it's a bit niche, but look how nice. I mean, yeah, I just loved having everything enclosed into the lining, and yeah, I find that very, very nice. Okay, awesome. Other side then. I was really going to be like, guys, we are almost there, but it's always a thing when it's like we are almost there and then that and that and that, because I'm going to show you what I'm going to show you. Then I was like, and then I'm finished, I just need to hem it when my wife's back. No, still need to make the belt as well, and then the belt loops, and hem it when my wife is back. But otherwise we are almost there. So the lining is shut all the way here, so that's the front. And then on the back, the lining is attached around the zipper, not shut here, So this is the part I still need to shut, and honestly I think I'm going to, I don't think it's worth doing by hand. Honestly, I think I'm just going to pinch it together and do a top stitch on top of it. That's like not such a big distance, and then I'm finished. Woo woo woo. Almost finished. Just the belt loops and the hem. That is still quite a bit. I'm always like, I'm almost finished when I'm not at all almost finished. That's my trademark in sewing. Okay, let's do as much as possible. The dog should need to go out soon, but he's not. When he'll come and look like he wants to go out, I'll stop and I'll take him out. Oh, I just found him. I didn't realize he was literally just there, not making a noise, not moving. Well, I guess as long as he's not making a noise, it's fine. Okay, we're almost there. So I've really just pinched it and sewed like this. I hope it's not going to be too uncomfortable. So I'm a fool, and I'm a fool for several reasons. So I'm going to show you. Now I have the jumpsuit fully lined, fully finished. With the seam I have shown you, which is not very pretty because it's just pinched. And actually, you can just pull this out fully, which means that I didn't need to make everything with the legs in the legs like I have, which made my life super complicated. So it's just, I felt like maybe it could be fine, but because I wasn't sure, I wanted to always keep the legs in the legs to make sure that I wouldn't trap one leg on the wrong side or something. So I was like, okay, didn't need to have the legs in the legs, good to know for next time because that's much easier. But then I was like, well, that ugly seam, I can actually reach it through the leg hole. So now I think what I'm gonna do is unpick all of that ugly seam and then reach it through the leg hole and re-sew it nicely. And then hopefully by then we have a really nice jumpsuit. And need to do the belt and the belt loops and the hem we know, but I'm, look, a bit silly, but better this way than, think it's possible and then realize it's not. So yeah, so I'm going to unpick this and sew it properly like a good seamstress. Editing Noémie and assistant, I explain in so many words how to make this crotch. I just wanted to summarize it, but I wasn't summarizing very efficiently. I'm gonna tell you now. So you sew your legs just normally, and then to sew the crotch, you do around the zipper. So the way I did alongside of the zipper, you turn, you check the zippers on the right side, etc. And then afterwards, you go through the middle, you grab your crotch and you go as far as possible. You will at some point be blocked because there's the rest of the pants in the way. And when this happens, you turn it around and you go and pull it through the leg opening, and you should be able, by doing it by section in 3 different little bits, to sew your entire crotch seam. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. Hi, so I just want to round up. I finished my wife's jumpsuit and I quickly wanted to share a few points with you. I will not reshare the lining explanation this time because I feel like I've talked about it in the vlog section of the video and I don't want this section to be too much of a repeat. That's what I'm still trying to strike as a balance in my videos, because I found that by having this conclusion section it can be a bit of a repeat of the vlog section. So I'm trying to make it so that's not too long and that it's still agreeable to watch. But the point I wanted to make were, the jumpsuit you're seeing on my wife is a size E in the sizing of the pattern, so it's not traditional sizing, they have their own letters. It's an E for this model. It cost a total of 80 euros, which is on the upper price end for my makes. The main fabric itself wasn't so expensive. It was 41 euros and I have a bit leftovers to do small projects on the sides with, so that's very nice. But the lining was another 30 euros. I had 1 euro for the zipper and then 8 euros for the thread, because actually I had to buy a second spool of thread. Even though I didn't use much of that second spool, I still bought it for that project, so I count it on that project. So that's a total of 80 euros, but I think seeing as my wife wears what I make for her so extensively, I think the cost per wear is going to be great in the end. And to be honest, the first one I made for her, I don't have the prices in mind anymore, but this was a viscose and the main fabric was more expensive, so it could have been a similar price for that first one anyway. So to review quickly this pattern, I think it's really great. It's customizable, so in my case I changed the legs to make them wider and to follow a pair of pants that she likes. So it's really customizable. I find it modest. I find that the neckline is really not too low, which is something I personally don't love. So I find that that neckline is really great. It's super comfortable to wear. I mean, if you remove the belt, you're basically in a baby romper, so it's super comfortable, and the fact that you have the belt, you can just adjust it to where you are at the moment, so it really allows for also a bit of bloating and fluctuation throughout the day. Maybe less with this one, we'll have to see how she styles it, but with the first version of this jumpsuit I made for her, it's really one that you can dress up or down. So I find that the model in itself, the pattern in itself, depending on the fabric you choose and the way you style it, you could really have a wedding guest outfit or a chill at home outfit, and I really like the versatility in this pattern. I wouldn't say that this pattern is called flattering. I'll show you me wearing it when I was trying it on, because I can generally fit into my wife's clothes. Okay, I didn't have the belt on, which also doesn't help, but I find that it's really intense on the hips. So yeah, I don't know if it's a super flattering pattern, but my wife is straight up and down, so it suits her great. Anyway, by flattering, I just mean like if your goal is to slim your hips, I don't think this pattern does that, but sometimes it could be cool to accentuate your hips and everything. It's also because I made it more wide-legged, so it tends to have a bit of this big block effect in the legs. I think if you stick to the original pattern that has a more tapered leg, you have less of this effect of just being a huge block, and you have more the intense hips, but then the hourglass shape, which you don't really have with the version I have made. I'm really happy with the booklet. If this is your first time doing the burrito on the armhole, that pattern is the one that's going to hold your hand and get you there. And I really like this, how the pattern really can make you evolve in your sewing skills and teach you something, and it's not just like, good luck sewist, try your best. No, it's really helpful, and I'm really happy with how well that booklet is made. For me, the pattern is great. It's missing two things to really show that it loves you. It's a free pattern / pay what you want pattern, so it's fine. I'm really happy with it. But to make this jumpsuit perfect, it's missing two things, and it's pockets and belt loops. Pockets, if honestly, there's so many YouTube tutorials, there's so many free templates, you can even free draw it, like put your hand free draw it, like there's so many ways, so I'm sure you'll be able to add pockets on your own. Watch out that pockets can emphasize the space on the hips if they're a bit too stiff, so you know, to keep in mind, the pockets obviously are placed on your hips, and this pattern is already not flattering on the hips, so just something to keep in mind if you decide to add the pockets. Personally, I always add them. Doesn't matter if it's flattering or not, pockets are a must. And the belt loops, I mean, life is hard enough as it is, and if you're in a jumpsuit, you're going to be undressing fully in the bathroom, and you don't want your belt to fall on the floor. So love yourself, give yourself a belt loop, you'll thank me later. That was something my wife commented on straight away after I made the first one, and I added them straight away on this new one. One thing I want to say, as I have lengthened the facing into a full lining, I have added a line of stitching along the armhole here, going down the sides, just so that the lining doesn't flip up fully, so it's kind of stuck in the right place. It's not fully following the seam line on the inside, on the lining. I've tried to pin it so it's neat, but it's stitched in a ditch in this seam here, so I think that's fine. So I hope you liked this video. I'm trying to be efficient, but yeah, it was an interesting make. It's always lovely to make things for my wife because she wears them a ton, and everyone at her work knows that I make her clothes, so it's really lovely. If you're planning on making this jumpsuit, or you planning to line a jumpsuit, good luck, you're gonna be doing great. Subscribe if you want to come back, like this video if you liked it, and don't forget that you can make anything. Bye!